Yeah, you grab mine if you.
Okay, it's now 4:45, and I would like to welcome everybody to the Murray City Municipal Council Committee of the Whole. And our first issue to deal with is approval of the minutes for the Committee of the Whole for September 7th, 2021. Do we have questions, or if none, then I would take a motion?
I'll move that we approve the Committee of the Whole minutes for September 7th, 2021.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so the motion passes. All right. Also, all of the members of the council are here with the exception of Kat Martinez, and she is excused. Now, discussion items. The first one is discussion on Murray City adopting a park impact fee, and we have Aaron Montgomery from Zion's Public Finance and Kim Sorensen. Hi, Kim.
Hi there.
Welcome, Aaron.
Okay. Thanks, Council. Am I on?
You're on.
Again, we have Aaron Montgomery with Science Financial, who put together our park impact analysis and plan. And also, we have Ted Mayestis in the audience. Ted is a member of our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. So let me just recap how we got to this point with a park impact fee. So you may remember back in March at a CLW meeting, I came before you and asked you if you would support the city doing a park impact fee analysis and plan, and then bringing it to the council. At that time, there was support from the council, at least to go ahead and do the initial work on the analysis. So we then contracted with Zion's Financial, and Aaron Montgomery put together that plan, and a couple other things that just to be aware of. Murray has never had a park impact fee. Most of the cities in Salt Lake County have a park impact fee. In fact, most of the cities in the state of Utah have a park impact fee. So as we looked at this, and the reason that we brought it up to you is we had adopted our park master plan in April of 2020. Along with the master plan, we asked the company that did the master plan to look at funding sources. And one of the suggestions from the master plan was to look at a park impact fee for funding, as well as to continue to fund the CIP projects. So after the plan was put together by Aaron, we then took it to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And again, Ted Mayestis is here today. They researched the plan, studied the plan, and then came back with a positive, a unanimous positive towards moving forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Aaron. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Try and make sure close enough to this that can be heard. So, yes, this is the Murray Parks Trails and Rec impact fee analysis, impact fee facilities plan and analysis presentation. I'll just walk through really quickly a review of what an impact fee is. It's a one-time fee. It's charged to new development to offset the capital costs of public infrastructure associated with the new development. Essentially, you have parks that are serving a certain number of people right now, and as new growth comes in, there's less park to go around per person because now there's more people. So these are collected in hopes that, with the idea and the direction that they will be used to expand the existing facilities to maintain a level of service to offset the new growth, to make sure facilities grow as new development occurs. So what costs can be included? The actual cost of existing facilities with capacity to serve growth, the cost of new construction for expanded facilities. You cannot include R&R, no curing of deficiencies, no O&M, no enhancement of current level of service. So we cannot improve the parks with impact fees above where they are currently. So that's what these set. The only thing that these consider are system capital improvements. So the difference between a system and a project is projects only serve a small neighborhood. Systems serve your entire city. So you can't have a small park that's meant for just the neighborhood included in your facilities in your IFFP.
Would you go back for just a second?
Sure.
Is that the difference between 1 and 3? Actual cost of existing facilities with capacity to serve and grow. So if we grew a park, we could use these funds, but we couldn't fix the slide at the current park.
That's essentially correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's about expanding. Yeah, you can't repair the slide. The slide would come from funds that are already provided because that's how they would be fixed if there wasn't new growth. This is purely expanding your facilities to maintain a level of service. Yeah, and we'll get into the numbers. Any other questions on this slide? Okay. Impact fees. So here, let me just go over quickly what an impact fee facilities plan and an IFA impact fee analysis is. The impact fee facilities plan establishes service levels, your existing, your proposed. It shows excess capacity, if there is any, demand created by new development, consumption of excess capacity, and then new facilities needed and the cost. Your impact fee analysis puts forward the proportionate share. So it calculates the impact fee. It establishes buy-in for excess capacity. It shows construction costs for new facilities and other costs, engineering, financial, or fund balances, and also financing and credits if there are any. So let's look at the growth, the expected growth in Murray. This is from 2021, current year, through 2031, a 10-year period of time. As you can see, it's about 2,000 people is what the population is expected to grow. Pretty small all in all, but still impacts will be felt with 2,000 additional people. So service levels as currently established for parks, 4.21 acres per 1,000 people. Trails, 2.17 trail feet per person. The recreational facilities are $283.87 as a cost per person. And the aquatic facilities are $38.92 as a cost per person, and that's per square feet on the facilities. So the impacts of growth. This slide shows what would happen if there was no additional facilities built with the addition of about 2,000 people. You can see how between 2021 and 2031, the level of service will decrease if there are no facilities added. So that's the hope of the impact fees, is to establish what new units would be needed in all these different categories to maintain the current level of service. So as we look here, for parks, it's 8.32 acres at a cost of about 3.2 million. Trail feet, 4,283 feet at $165,140,000. Recreational facilities, 2,245 square feet at a cost of $561,325. And there is excess capacity in the aquatic facilities in the amount of $74,093. That's expected to be consumed over the next 10 years, and that facility will then is expected to be at capacity. So no new facilities need to be built for the aquatic facilities, but it is anticipated that there is a cost associated with consumption of excess capacity there. So the total is about $3.9 million for construction and consumption of excess capacity. So when we look at this, the proportionate share takes those amounts, and it divides them by people, the number of growth, the number of people that it is expected to have or come into Murray in the next 10 years. So we look at the parks, trails, recreational facilities, aquatic facilities, and consultant costs can also be included in that. So these are all the costs per person. At the bottom, you can see the maximum cost per person is just over $2,000. So that would be the base of where your impact fee is at. Now, when we're looking at growth, we look at household sizes, because when you bring a new unit or a new household into the city, that's who will be charged the impact fee. So impact fees, according to the ACS, or that's the U.S. Census Bureau, American Community Survey, single family in Murray is 2.63 people per household, and multifamily is 2.42 people per household. So we take the maximum fee per person and multiply it by that count of household size, and then you get the maximum impact fee for a single family unit at $5,396.23, and a maximum impact fee for multifamily at $4,965.35. And I meant to put a question slide, but I forgot. So we'll just stay here, since I'm sure this is probably the most interesting slide anyway. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Sorry, I can't see you, but how did we predict that there would only be 1,900 of an increase? And what if it's more? Because I'm assuming and I don't know if more Melinda is, but in the next 2 years, there's going to be a substantial growth in a lot of empty properties. And from my understanding and calculation, maybe I'm wrong, it's more than 1,900. And so that's sooner than 10 years. How do we measure for that? Do we just use the same calculations, or how do we adjust?
Yeah. So the population projection, just double checking, is what I believe the city is expecting. We got it from the city. If the population is greater, these ratios are based on the level of service currently. So if you have more people come in, those ratios won't change. This is pegging currently where your level of service is at. So if you have more growth than is expected, it would be expected that you would collect more than what we're saying in here than is needed, but it would be at the same ratio, because we're trying to help you collect the money that you need to maintain a level of service. The growth helps us get to a point so that we can build those ratios, but the number that grows will be how much you collect will be based on how many units are built. So if it's more than expected, it should still be the right amount to collect to maintain the level of service in 2021.
If we, and maybe this is a question for you, Kim, if we meet the 1,900 within the next 3 to 5 years, would it create a bust in the system? Like, would the infrastructure of the rec center be a little overwhelming, or would the parks and facilities? I mean, I want to make sure you have the right amount of staff and the right amount of, that you're prepared for the what if that happens faster than you can handle too.
So that's a great question. This would cover the impact on maintaining our level of service. But I think your question is operation and maintenance, right? Yeah, so impact fee money can't be used for operation and maintenance. So we would need to get that from the general fund. But this money can be used to develop new parks and more opportunities for recreation.
Okay, so with that, I mean, I would hate to put, I mean, the park's already full, Murray especially, but that we hit, I guess my concern is if we hit population faster than the 10 years, is there a plan in case?
And I also guess if what you're saying happens, then you would also be increasing your property taxes. So you would have more property taxes and sales tax essentially to cover operation and maintenance.
And if I could just add something to that too, the idea behind the impact fee is to collect funds to expand the park facilities. So instead of your parks getting smaller with more, staying the same with more people coming to the parks, the idea is you would build more parks and have more park space. So if it's growing faster than you would expect, then you would collect more funds than we probably are predicting and still be able to build more park facilities to facilitate new growth and additional people.
Thank you.
Any other questions here? Okay, we're good. You can continue.
Well, this is the end.
Oh,
of
this
the-
is it. Oh, I'm
this
sorry.
is
I
the end
thought-
of the presentation. I apologize.
One thing that I really kind of wanted to be clear on is on, and I believe I have my notes right in here. Can't remember what page it is, but hold on. Give me 1 second. Oh, it had to do with the developer. If a developer decided they wanted to do space within their development, how does that? Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more about that? If a developer comes in and says, "Hey, I'm going to put green space in my development," how would that work under impact fees? And what's the benefit? What would we lose?
Well, that's always those kind of building facilities in lieu of impact fees is always up to the city whether they'll allow that. And so I think and you would always want to consider that impact fees are meant to serve the system, the full city. So those are normally discussions that you would have on a case-by-case basis with the developer, but I think you have to just weigh it with what they bring to you and say, is it fair to our citizens to let them count this instead of have impact fees? Is it serving our city in a way that benefits them, or is it just better for us to collect the impact fee and serve growth in the way that we know will benefit the whole city? So normally we're not too involved in that, so I can't give you any historical experience from that, but I would say that's kind of the general idea, is it's on a case-by-case basis, and the city determines whether it is completely as beneficial. And that's what I would say. You want to make sure it's beneficial to the whole city when making those considerations.
Okay, thank you.
Kim, you had mentioned earlier, I didn't catch, but tell me how many, or maybe Aaron, you can tell us, but how many cities are doing this now, impacts?
I can tell you, Brett, that the only city that borders Murray that is not is Midvale.
Okay.
And I think I included in your packet a list of
You did.
cities, but most of the cities are charging an impact fee. And as I was collecting this data, there were a number of cities, Mill Creek City, Lehigh City, and Holiday, that were looking at increasing theirs. So, and if you look at Midvale's park system,
Yeah.
you understand why they
Why they don't-
have a park
Yeah.
impact fee.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Even the one that surprised me was Taylorsville City, which their park system is not near what Murray's is, and their impact fee is $1,290.
Crazy.
So
Thanks.
what is the max and what's the low? Is there a max and low, or is there just a target that just fits Murray the best?
So this is establishing a maximum impact fee. That's what's being shown right now on the screen, and that essentially what this is saying is there will be impacts from growth. This maximum impact fee pushes the entire cost of expanding the facilities and the parks onto the developers. If you do a maximum impact fee, the idea is that the citizens won't pay for any growth parks constructed because of growth, the developer will, and they often choose how they deal with that in their developments. So if you feel that you don't want the developers and that it's okay because the cost will come from somewhere. And so if you don't charge the maximum fee then and you go a lower amount, just be aware the funds will come from somewhere to expand the park facilities, or the level of service will decrease.
So will this help offset kind of increasing taxes to have more parks, or I guess I'm just trying to understand that part. I mean, I guess we could increase taxes if we wanted to have more parks or facilities. Okay.
Yeah, it really depends on if, the city can determine that it's okay with not having the same level of service, and, maybe we have too many parks, or too much. It didn't sound like from your comments earlier that parks are full, so you probably want to make sure you have enough park space.
I just really want a healthy life for citizens in general, so this is great for me.
And Murray's got great parks.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't live in Murray, and I come to the parks here sometimes to play pickleball and things like that. So you also have people from outside that come.
Yeah.
And there's no way to account for that. But yes, if you charge the maximum amount, it goes to the developers, or you can let the level of service decrease and not necessarily raise taxes, or it can come from the general fund or taxpayers through an increase in taxes. It's whatever the city deems to be best, but it's really kind of up to the city what they choose to adopt.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not finding a list of the cities, so where?
I will send you one tomorrow.
Okay,
list of
I
all
was
the
just
cities.
wondering how we compare with the others. I see all the other stuff, but I can't see the list of cities in this.
I'll make sure you have one tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Sure, of course.
So, for Rosalba, for you, this is almost how the state legislature says we have to account or come up with, how you're going to come up scientifically with a fee. You can't just pull it out of the air. So that's what they did. If we have more growth, because it's by unit, so if somebody puts in 100 units, they will pay 100 times this. If somebody puts in 300 units, they'll put it. And if somebody came in and put 2,000, there's no place in the city you could do this, put in the whole 1,000 all at once, we'd have all the money all at once. So, but the caveat on this money is we have 6 years. Okay, parks are 6 years to spend it, and it has to be new facilities. So what this could happen is you would have a pot of money sitting there, and if somebody says, oh, I have this big open space, or I have this acre here in the middle of this neighborhood that I would sell to you, we would have the funds to do that. Where right now, maybe not.
Thank you, Brenda. I really just needed that visual because I thought I really did think that it was that, so it was great to have her explain that. So I appreciate that.
And just one addition to that, 6 years from the time you collect it. So it's not 6 years from now when you adopt it. It's when so spend what you collect today first and do I'm sure your accountants will follow that. So
what does this, let's say there was a land now we wanted to purchase and this wasn't in effect, could we substitute the money later for that, or it has to be in that time frame?
As long as it's connected with growth, then I think you can say we anticipate the growth, and we bought this land for growth, and when we put the new facility on, then we could pay for it or reimburse the cost. Yeah, because there are times, and this is jumping because parks are not as big, but if you do like an impact fee for water, you might put in a $2 million water facility, and you're not going to collect all that right up front, but you need to put it in because growth is coming. Right. And so over the years, you reimburse as you collect it back take from the impact fee fund, reimburse it back into your general fund or wherever you paid for it. to reimburse us to essentially the taxpayers for fronting that bill initially. So yes, it can be happening.
Great.
That way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. It would be really helpful if we could, as part of our discussion, if we could have a list of the other cities, what their impact fees are, where, our proposed impact fees would fit in. So are you guys okay with now, or should we extend the discussion? What do you think?
Do you have, is it in, it was in there?
It was in there, and I have
I know it was online.
one copy, but
I know it was online. I just can't find it in our packet.
I've gone over
Yeah.
it many times, but or
I didn't see that in my packet either.
Yeah.
Why don't we just have him get it to us tonight or tomorrow?
Okay.
And
Are
then
you
we
okay
can-
with that? And
yeah.
then is that
Yeah.
enough?
Okay.
and I
If we
can
need
even
more.
I can even okay.
See the magic of technology.
That's right.
Thanks,
And
Doug.
as
Thank you, Doug.
And one thing to consider too, Diane, as you're looking at the list, you're going to see some cities that you're going to think that's pretty low. Then you're going to see some cities that you're going to think that's pretty high. For example, I remember St. George and Spanish Fork and I think Lehigh were high. Well, that's because their park system is at a high level of service. If the impact fee is low, let's take Taylorsville, for example. I think I said it was $1,290. Well, the reason their impact fee is so low is because the value of their park and recreation facilities is low when considered to the number of residents that they have. Does that help?
So it needs to be apples to apples.
It does need to be apples to apples, and Murray's park system is pretty good.
No, it's wonderful.
I have another question. Does it calculate the acreage from cities based on do you have that?
Say that again.
Calculate the acreage from other cities? I'm assuming Murray has a high acreage in parks.
Yeah, it does not
general.
calculate that, but as you look at it, you can figure that in as well.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. We got the information, so I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you so much. I think
Thanks.
we're good, unless there are other questions.
No, thank you for doing this. And thank you for, can't see you both, but thank you guys for looking into this and putting this together. We appreciate it. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No, it's
I
my
think it would be
pleasure.
really-
Just my last little thing, I tell everybody in Murray this. I love Murray because I worked here for a little bit. Before I was in school, I was a water handyman, is what I call them. I worked for Danny Astle, just driving a truck around and fixing sprinklers. So I love coming back here. This is one of my favorite cities. So you guys, special place in my heart.
All right.
Should have seen the look on his face when he walked in and saw you.
Oh, no, I didn't know my old boss was here. I
Ah,
thought he was going something else.
I know. It's crazy. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming back, Aaron.
Anytime.
All right. We'll continue on, and we are now number 2, discussion on changes to building permit fees. Melinda and Don Stephenson.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me all right with my mask on. If not, let me know and I can take that off. Wanted to introduce to you Don Stephenson, our building official. He started in August of last year as the building official. And this is his first time with you all in this group. So it kind of reminds me of if you've ever been to Cafe Rio and you let the staff up front know when you're ordering it your first time, and they all say first timer. So this is Don's first time with you all. So we hopefully can go a little bit gently on him, but a little bit of background with Don. We stole him away essentially from Midvale City a couple of years ago. He served as our plans examiner for a year, and then we promoted him to the building official last August of 2020. So he's got 30 years plus, really, of building inspection services, which doesn't make sense because he's only 43, but what we are here to present to you tonight is really a housekeeping item. With the opportunity we have, hopefully within the next 60 to 90 days, to go online live with a different software to process our building permits, we wanted to clean up and get in code the actual amounts and the methodologies of the building permit fees that we process. There's uniform building code that we refer to when we process building permit fees. And that code requires that the official body of the jurisdiction adopt the building fees. So in chapter 15.08 of the city code is where we have our building permit fees. And we're really not changing the fees or calculating them any differently. We're just clarifying the process that we have been using. And so there's two parts to building permit fees. And this is where, if you have questions about it, Don can answer because that's his expertise. But you use a formula to calculate the the math. And then you also have rates that you use to plug into the formulas. So we are wanting to just have all of this in one place for everybody who may need to pay for a building permit fee to see that. And previously, the tables have not been in the city code. They've just been referenced. So this is, I think, a pretty straightforward item, and building fees vary based on what type of product you're building, the square footage, the valuation, even the construction methodology. So that's a real brief explanation of the code change that we have before you this evening. You did receive in your packet a redlined copy that I think looks a little bit more threatening than what it really is, only in the way that we're just trying to plug in those amounts in the tables into there. So, John, do you have anything to add?
No, if there's any questions, I could answer. It's, like you say, pretty straightforward.
So I have a question. So is that, Melanie, you just answered it. That's the only thing that's being changed there is the tables and the permit fees. Is that what you said? That's the only.
Yeah, they're really not being changed. They're being clarified.
Okay. So there's nothing different, just clarifying everything.
Yes. Going through it, it's basically, it was never itemized down, especially for a computer. So now we need to have everything clear when we go live to be wireless, paperless the best we can. So,
There are a few clarifications, very minor, I would say. One is, let me just look here, the staff report, but one of the things we have tried to make the fees be more consistent across the board. So if there was one fee that was $50 and another fee that was $65, but they were very similar, we've tried to make them match exactly. Yeah. So, and we've also made an effort to have the fees just be a little bit more reflective of the current, the current process.
yeah.
So as an example, we are having inspections that may need to take place outside of our regular work hours would be charged at $80 an hour to the individual that needs the inspection, and we would have a 2-hour minimum. And that would be,
That was,
we did that. We don't do that very frequently, but we did just have a situation probably about 6 weeks ago where we needed to come in over the weekend and do some special inspections outside of another business's working hours. So that is an additional item that we have clarified in there. I don't know if we've really had that fee in code before, though we have been charging it. So we're just trying to be more transparent with the fees and what we charge so that it's all in one place. And this actually came about earlier this year with Brenda's office through the budget office, wanting to know what all of the fees are that each department charges. And so we wanted to just revise everything, have it in there all in one spot.
because we have it on tables, not necessarily in one spot, so.
Thank you.
I have a few questions. So in areas where it didn't have residential, you added residential right to keep it so it's universal. And then under section, I'm assuming C, under multifamily residential, you've taken off commercial buildings from versus square footage and added a fixed cost on, I'm assuming the value of the property instead of square footage. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
So which section are you looking at in the code, Rosalba?
15.08030, item C.
Item C.
And underneath it lists what used to be in code for commercial buildings of square footage. And now it's new residential dwellings will be $200, commercial buildings and remodels, valuation. I'm assuming that's the amount of the property or the amount of the project.
No, that's a pre-plan review fee. So when they bring that in, we take just a little small amount that goes towards their plan review fee. So it's just an upfront cost to cover a little bit of our cost. If they come in and decide not to do it, we've taken some of the money to cover our cost.
Okay. But you guys are just reevaluating the costs differently is all. Okay.
Yeah, the whole, and I should have backed up even more and started at the very beginning, but building fees are intended to be self-supported fees. So all of the fees that we charge are supposed to go back into the service that we're providing. And that's in building, it's not only just inspections, but we review all of the plans that come in to make sure that they meet building code, to make sure that they meet zoning code, subdivision code, fire code. And so all of these fees then go to pay for, if we have third-party reviews that we have, it helps pay for building division salary. And so with those plan reviews, we like to have some type of a little guarantee that we provide the service, even if they don't get a building permit in the end, which does happen, then we still have some payment for those services that we rendered, even if they don't come and pick up a building permit fee. So that's the $200 fee that you're seeing for new residential dwellings. We would take a deposit essentially on a plan review for that at the amount of $200. And then if the plan review fee was $400, when they pick up their permit fee, they pay that difference in addition to all of the fees that are
it's not over
calculated.
and above. It goes towards that plan review.
Perfect. Thank you. And that's pretty standard, I'm assuming. That's a standard fee. Okay. And then the next question I have is about the solar. Can you kind of expand on that? I know the sentence is new in there, but kind of expand on the plan review fees for solar is lesser of actual costs. So is this something if somebody comes in and says, I want to add solar? I just was trying to understand that section.
So what we have is a set fee on the solar. So if you have a great big system, that's a set fee no matter what big, but if it gets to be just a little teeny one, then that is reduced slightly. It's a solar fee, if you base it on the evaluation for the tables, your fee would be, we would be taking way more than it cost us to do that. So we have a set fee for that, but then if it's just a really small, like a couple of panel system to run some very small unit, then we would take the lesser of that cost to make it basically fair, that we're not overcharging our fees.
Perfect. Thank you. That helped. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Any other questions? It just looks like it's been cleaned up. I mean, that's basically what you're doing and kind of makes sense. Good. So if there are no other questions, thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, we're at number 3, which is a discussion on amending Chapter 2.68 to reflect the new name of the MCCD Review Committee and requiring annual meetings. Melinda and Jared.
Okay, I did not have a PowerPoint for this particular item, but with the mixed use revisions that we passed in July of this year, one of the things we did with the MCCD zone was we removed the word design from the name of the MCCD review committee. So previously we've referenced that committee as the MCCD DRC, or the Design Review Committee. One of the things that we've discovered as we've worked a lot within this zone the last year plus is that there's, I think, a misconception that the MCCD Review Committee looks at architectural design and the elements of a building that are related to design as part of the review, and that's really not true. So this is kind of a very minute attempt to clarify that what we're really looking at is a project review. We're looking at how parking may interface with building entrances. We're looking at how pedestrian space interfaces with parking access and those types of things. So because we changed the name in the land use code, the Title 17 land use code, we needed to go back and change the name in the section of the city code that just outlines what all of the different boards and committees do. So this is just another housekeeping item that we're just removing that word, and hopefully with time people can understand that they're really that it's more of a site design versus anything else on the MCCD review committee. So this, normally the items that we bring to you from my department have to have a public hearing, but the one we just talked about with building code is not in the land use code, so we don't have a public hearing for that. And same with this. This is in Chapter 2, so we don't have to have a public hearing for this one. But just as kind of a housekeeping item, we want to be consistent with the names of all of the committees. So we're just wanting to take that word design out and just call it the MCCD Review Committee. I don't know if you have any questions, but Jared could elaborate a little bit more as to what the MCCD Review Committee really looks at when they are assessing projects that come through.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay.
Yeah, so the review committee, typically, like Melinda started to address, we're looking mainly at site layout issues. and interactions between parking, et cetera, parking counts, and all of those kind of things. Very little of the committee's review involves the actual architecture, and there had been those cases over. There are some elements that play into it. There are some design elements, but they are not the majority of the review. And so there was a kind of a perception at times that they were some sort of architectural review committee, which is common in some cities, but we do not do. So we just wanted to make that adjustment to the name in Title 17 to remove any doubt that we were looking at, that it was a full architectural review of these buildings. That's more of a project review, like Melinda said. We look at how they're dealing with their drainage. We have specific requirements for low-impact development standards in drainage, et cetera. And those don't really, they are designed, but when people read design, lay people read design, they usually think of the building and the layout of the building, the floor plans, the fixtures, the cladding materials, et cetera. And that's not what we're typically reviewing. So we just want to make that adjustment.
Yeah, and just to kind of show you the basics of some of those elements that they look at, this could be as simple as where to put a location for a dumpster for your garbage that you have to take out, so that that's not interfering with any of the building access or parking, how landscape may be better utilized to accomplish a particular goal of, the Planning Commission mentioned this a couple weeks ago in their meeting, but you may want to have a good flow of pedestrian access that you can accomplish with landscaping versus just sticking a sidewalk in some place. And so those are really the types of things that they look at. And again, this is just kind of a slight attempt to help correct that misconception that comes with the word design.
Okay, questions?
Yes.
Rotalba.
So if we were to, this is just kind of a scenario, but if we were to remove the word design, could we, at the direction of either, who's over the committee again? Is it Jared, you?
I staff the committee.
Okay.
So the planning division functions as staff for them.
Okay, so at any point, if for whatever reason in the future, we could change the process and we could include architectural design.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not relevant to the code,
No,
right?
This is
Okay.
all. This is to change the name to kind of remove any disassociation from the actuals of the code right now. That's
Correct.
Not to say you couldn't change your minds about how we do that.
Okay. And then the second question I have, and you guys haven't even touched on this, is why would you want to remove it from quarterly meetings to annually? What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, one good reason is that we don't like to have meetings just to have meetings. We've spent the entire year canceling the meetings because we haven't had any projects coming through. That's partially because of the moratorium that we had in place, but also that's partially because you really should only hold meetings. I mean, we're required by law to have annual open meeting training for all of our boards and commissions, so we would hold at least one meeting. We may need to have other meetings to hold, if we have new committee members, to get them kind of onboarded and familiar with what they do. But other than that, if we don't have a project that comes through for 9 months, it doesn't make much sense to hold 3 meetings during those 3 quarters that really aren't necessary.
But you can cancel them, right? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be codified.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense to, I mean, whatever your preference is, I think it makes more sense to hold them as needed versus having meetings that are scheduled that are unnecessary. But that's really a policy decision, I suppose.
And the same idea, you could have it say annually, but you could have them more often, anytime you wanted, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we don't. Sorry, to be perfectly clear, saying that we do them quarterly now, required quarterly meetings, doesn't mean that we push everybody to those 4 meetings of the year and only hold 4. We
Okay.
hold them whenever we have applications, and we would do the same with annual. We might make this change and say you're only required to hold them annually, regardless. But that's the regardless. If we have 3 applications next month, we'll hold a meeting. We're not going to tell everyone we're only meeting in July.
Then could we add that into our code instead of saying just annually or annually
In the
versus,
wording, you mean?
yes.
I suppose we could say it that way. I haven't
to clarify what you just said. Because I mean, in the next year, we can see that they're going to have to meet more frequently. We don't have a moratorium. But then after MCCD is developed, then we won't need them as often. So just to kind of clarify that, or we will, we just don't know. So I would hate to say, let's go to annually and then not utilize a board that is essentially for that district.
Well, it says at least annually in the code. So I think that covers what you're saying. It's maybe just phrasing it differently.
It's just a minimum.
Yeah.
We will meet at least once, but can meet as many times. They could meet 365 times if they wanted to, if they needed to.
That's great. I just want to solidify. I just don't have and I'm going to be blunt here, I just don't trust that it will happen or that it will continue to happen based off of the historical reference to MCCD and the lack or care of that district.
That the meetings will occur, you mean?
Yes.
Or
that it
hold
has
meetings
real
when we get
guidance.
applications. I mean, I think you're maybe associating something here that isn't relevant, but we hold the meetings when we have somebody submit an application for a project. We do that for Planning Commission. We do that for our hearing officers. We do that for all of this. So, I mean, I think that's...
Some of those meetings are required, right? This is not something we can just skip over and not go to the...
Right. I mean, code requires that if you're putting forth a project in the MCCD zone, it has to come through this process. So legally, we can't just not do that. I mean, we
I appreciate
applications,
that.
we process them.
It's good that it's being clarified. Yeah. So thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Now we will go to discussion on general plan amendment. Text of Chapter 5, Land Use and Urban Design to add CMU and VMU category. Melinda and Jared again.
Okay. Thank you. And thanks for having us here to talk about this tonight. I'm going to continue the theme of housekeeping in a lot of ways. This is another housekeeping item. This is an amendment or a proposed amendment to the text in Chapter 5 of the second part of our general plan, which is the land use and urban design element of the plan, in order to add those categories for the new mixed-use zones that were just implemented recently. So let me just really quickly show you. This slide shows you the zoning in the city. You can see the north edge of the city. Handily, it shows our TOD zone. That's the fire clay area. You can see the standard commercial zoning along State Street, the city center district, the MCCD that we were just talking about, and our new MCMU zone that was the MU zone before. We wanted to, after we adopted those zones and started to implement them, we realized that there are no categories that correspond in the future land use map in the general plan. So just as a brief sort of reevaluation of how that all works, we have that future land use map, this map here, that the categories, the land use categories are supposed to correspond to certain zones. So what we did was adopt some zones, and then we didn't have a category for them in the future land use map, as was pointed out to me helpfully by staff members after we finished all the work on the zoning. So I am here in a housekeeping capacity, and I felt like I should just admit that was just something I missed doing when we were processing. So we have in this future land use category, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Yeah, that's what Zach calls it, managing up. Let me manage up today. We forgot to do this, or we should have done this concurrently, but we did not do that. So Zach's probably watching and laughing at himself right now, or at me rather. So these categories up here, you can see these colors, the city center district, and it doesn't look exactly the same, but you can see that color here. So these are the future land use categories, and each one of those in Chapter 5 in that element is going to correspond to certain zones, right? You can see low density residential. These are just some of the ones that are available there. Our mixed use, which we've always called mixed use before, and that's one of the ones that we want to make a slight change to make it more appropriately match up to the new zones. Remember, in the new zones, we establish them, or we will establish them, based on areas of change that are identified in the general plan, and then those those tests that we put into the code. So this is just to remind you that they could go in different places. And so as we look at the future land use map, some of these areas, let's say that someone comes in and wants to go into State Street somewhere and ask us if it's appropriate to make a change. If the city feels like it's appropriate to make that change for the zoning, we'll also want to make a land use map, future land use map change to correspond. We can't really do that right now because we don't have the category yet. So what we're proposing is that what we have always called mixed use, that you see, sorry, I didn't order these very well, but that mixed use right here, we've always called this mixed use, and we had it in the transit, in our fire clay area and down around this central station. What we're proposing is that we now, that's a kind of a transit. We recategorize it as the Murray Central mixed use, so it's kind of associated with the central station, and the north station is TOD, so it's associated with transit as well. We'd like to rename that transit mixed use as a land use category and have it correspond to the Murray Central mixed use, as you can see there, and the transit-oriented development zones around those stations. And then also, we would introduce a new mixed use category instead of just having the one. We'd introduce a new mixed use category that is village and centers mixed use. This language that you see there is taken right out of the purpose statement for those zones that we just adopted. And then that would apply, these two zones at the bottom, the CMU and VMU zones would be the ones that were appropriate. So this would essentially allow us to appropriately review rezoning requests and have land use categories that correspond to them so we can update that map as well. While the general plan in 2017 was adopted to tell us that we ought to consider those kinds of things, since we hadn't adopted them, we didn't have a future land use category for them. So the Planning Commission reviewed all of this information on September 2nd. We mailed notices to affected entities. No one had any concerns. We didn't actually receive any public comments that night, and they voted 6-0 to recommend the approval. We talked about this actual issue for about 15 minutes and the land use element of the general plan for about 45. So they were more interested in that stuff, but there's a lot in there. If you're going to read one part of the general plan, that's the one I would suggest you read, Chapter 5 of the second section. We did make the findings that these changes are in harmony with those objectives because, as I mentioned, that general plan does tell us to do this. It just didn't give us the categories for it because we hadn't established them yet. And they support the recently approved amendments, and they're really necessary so that we can process these applications that are going to be coming in appropriately. Any questions, or Melinda, you had a comment?
Yeah, so we have actually been delaying some of the applications that we've received so that we can get this in place and approved so that when we take general plan amendments that to the Planning Commission and the City Council, we can have a legitimate future land use category to put them in. So as an example, we do have an application from Boyer Company to for the RC Willey site. We had that late last year, early this year on the agenda. Because now we have different zones, their application for the general plan amendment, instead of being for a mixed use category, will be instead for the villages and centers mixed use, correct?
Right.
And so it's really a small semantics, but a housekeeping item that needs to be taken place before we can go in and have these 3 applications that are coming forward in the next couple of meetings. Before we can have those processed, we need to have the future land use category created, since we already created the zones.
Can I ask a question? Melinda, so when you talk about Boyer Company, they were one of them who had done it, who had put an application in before and withdrew because of the mixed use.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have to go back through, when they reapply, do they have to go back through the planning and zoning again?
Yes.
And through us again? So it's not just kind of a, anyway, that's, you answered my question, they go back through.
That's a very intelligent question. And the reason why is because we now have zones on the book that were never even contemplated as an option when they submitted their application a year ago. And also because of that, we needed to create these different future land use categories. So before, we just had all the mixed use in one category. Now we have them separated out. As Jared explained, we have the TOD, we have, we have the centers and the villages and those other categories. So that was also not an option for them to apply for. So they have to go back through the entire process from start to finish. So it'll go, once this is in place, then we can legitimately accept an application because these options will exist within the general plan, whereas we just had them in zoning code before.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you, because on my paper, or I don't know if you can go back to the slide,
Which one?
that one. Okay. So what was the density before? So ranges between
Yeah.
10 to, I don't know what that is, 7?
Good question. It was, I can't read it, but it was low, 10 to 30, I think. 10 units the acre to 30. And we only had we had two categories for mixed use. We had the city center, which was only applicable to downtown. And then we had this mixed use. And this came up once before in a previous meeting where we said, we actually do a lot more density than that in the zoning itself. Why would our future land use category have it so much lower? So I reached out to the consultant that helped us do this and asked that question. And she didn't really remember why we had set the density at that, whether it was actually a mistake or probably more likely that it was considered broadly across the area that would be put into that category, since it's not necessarily meant to be project specific. It's about that whole area. So let me go back to a map. So here's the area that is categorized as mixed use, all of this. And not all of those properties are going to be developed as full mixed use properties. So your range in the end, looking at the whole area of the city that you've done as mixed use, is going to be between 10 and 30 units the acre when you're building 60 and 70 in projects. What we should have done, I think, and was to do what we've done here. When we have specific zones that are tied to it, the densities that are in those zones are the ones that should be listed as appropriate. Otherwise, it doesn't really do its job of matching up the future land use map and the zoning. So what you're going to see, what we've proposed then is to match these categories or these density ranges for the TOD and the MCMU zones to go up to the maximum that we allow in those two zones and the minimum that we would allow too. And then in the village and mixed use, you see the same thing. Densities between 25 and 45. What we allow as a base and the highest that we allow with all of the additions in the CMU. Does that help explain that?
So mixed use is now going to be transit mixed use.
Yeah, what was
so the
previously
purple.
mixed use. Yeah.
Okay, and where's villages and centers mixed use going? Is that
Well, it's not on the map yet.
Oh,
But what
but it would
that's-
be like where the RC Willie is, right?
Yes, it'd
Yeah.
be, if it's approved, we would change the future land use map designation of those properties where RC Willie has been to village and centers mixed use to match a zone that we're anticipating allowing there too.
Now,
if it's approved, then it would
okay,
change those.
I'm trying to remember what was in the mixed use packet when we redid it.
Uh-huh.
Is that the same amount or is it more
They're
or
less dense. These two zones, the VMU and CMU, are less dense than the transit-oriented ones because the facilities the city has and the traffic circulation that can be handled, et cetera, around stations is a lot greater than the ability of our systems to handle that density in the outlying areas like 9th East and State Street and other areas.
Right.
So the densities in the VMU and CMU are less. That's why we need the other category. Right now, they would be asking for mixed use, and mixed use doesn't tell us the mixed use, the current existing mixed use future land use category doesn't tell us that VMU and CMU zones are appropriate for it because they didn't exist when we created that category. So it's
Okay.
more appropriate to do it this way.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Good question. The hard part is picking a new color. We've used a lot of colors. We don't know where to get another color. Zach's in charge of that. So we'll palette mix some things. If any of you have suggestions, feel free to let us know.
Since we're on this topic, I know there was things that the council wanted to see differently. Do you know where we're at with those items?
Go ahead,
Or
please.
Yeah, we're working with Jennifer Kennedy to try and find some dates that could work for a discussion. But frankly, with the amount of items that we have coming forward and the meeting cancellations that have taken place in November and December, we're really short on days for the scheduled council meetings. So we may have to think outside of those and come up with some dates that
And
would work.
how many people have come forward with their applications?
For,
4.
yeah.
I
for-
would love to see that come forward before, if we're doing this, to kind of see that come forward before too?
Most of them are not in the,
Are not in those zones?
they're in the, well, I guess I shouldn't say most.
Well,
of them are in those
there's-
zones. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, and that going forward with a zone change application, I mean, we could still change the actual zoning code without. It's a. I mean, I think what I'm hearing you say is you would like to get, if there are changes the council wants to make, you would like to get those in place so that future projects could be under those new ordinances.
Correct.
Yes.
So a zone change could come forward and a project still not have an application come through for many months. So, I mean,
Which is
it's,
likely in this case because they're complicated applications, the master site plan.
yeah. So we can look at, I mean, I think, did I reply to you earlier today with some other dates, but we can look at alternate dates for, not just Tuesday afternoons as we normally have our committee of the whole. We can look at other dates to try and get that conversation going. I know that at least on one of those applications, they will have a zone text amendment that they'd like to see. That'll be the Galleria AISU project. They outlined one of those changes in the letter that they submitted to the city council back on July 20th, I think it was. So they still have one of those that they would like to see come forward. So,
Well, I should clarify. I said 4, but there are 2 that we've received that we're getting ready to process as we move forward with this, and 2 that we know are coming in soon or that are being prepared. So,
Were we pretty strict on our dates? Is that why? Help me out on the dates that we wanted to go out driving around with you. What?
yeah. So we're juggling a lot of balls here trying to get things through because we have the design guidelines that we wanted to do, the kind of walking tour, the driving tour, committee of the whole discussion on the mixed use zones. And then we really we have an October meeting, which the agenda is already set for. And then we have our November 16th meeting and our December 7th meeting. So we only have, normally we would have a lot of time, right? We would have 4 meetings that we could kind of tag on to have that discussion. But I think just my department alone has like 10 or 12 items that we need to push through these next 3 meetings. And so we can also start a committee of the whole at like 1:00 in the afternoon if we needed to. Whatever can work for the council, but there's just a lot of tight time frames with those canceled meetings.
Yeah, I think we requested it a while ago, though, so we've had time. We just need to get it done. I think we'd all like to see that. So, anyway, so let's work on it. Okay.
anything else for us?
Is there any?
No, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're good. Thank you. Jennifer, announcements?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you guys about the 2 ribbon cuttings that are coming this week. The first one is Thursday at the Abington at 10:30 a.m. And the next one is Friday at Storage Stills and Daily Dills at 10 a.m. I sent the information to you guys. Some of you have let me know you're going. If you still want to go and haven't let me know, just let me know.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. Thank you. We are adjourned. Okay, welcome. It's 6:30 and the time for the Murray City Municipal Council meeting. Council members are present with the exception of Kat Martinez, who has been excused. So anyway, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're here. We'll first do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I have asked Darren Rasmussen to do the pledge. So thank you, Darren.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks again. I knew he'd do a great job. He's been with the Scouts so much that he knows how to do that. All right. We have no approval of minutes, so we'll go to special recognition. And the first one is to consider a joint resolution of the Mayor and Municipal Council of Murray City, Utah, declaring October 11th through 15th, 2021 as Public Power Week. Mayor Camp and Blaine Hackey are presiding. Mayor, do you want to read the resolution to begin with?
We'll be presenting, you can be presiding. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to read this resolution. This is a joint resolution of the Mayor and Municipal Council of Murray City, Utah, declaring October 11th through 15th, 2021 as Public Power Week. Whereas Murray citizens in 1913 voted and approved the formation of the community's own municipal electric utility, and whereas the citizens of Murray City have owned and operated an independent electric utility, Murray City Power, for 108 years, providing our community with safe, reliable, and reasonably priced electricity. And whereas Murray City Power is one of over 2,000 consumer-owned electric utilities that comprise the American Public Power Association, or APPA, an organization that annually promotes Public Power Week. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and Murray City Municipal Council, do hereby declare October 11th through 15th, 2021 as Public Power Week. Be it therefore resolved that we hereby encourage the citizens of Murray City to participate in the Public Power Celebration event on Thursday, the 14th of October, to honor 108 successful years of public power in Murray. And be it further resolved that our community acknowledges that the success of Murray City Power has been achieved through the combined and cooperative efforts of our employees, citizens, fellow city departments, elected officials, and industry partners, including the Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems, or UAMPS, the Intermountain Power Agency, IPA, as well as the APPA. And that is the resolution that we're asking you to pass, approve, and adopt this evening.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. I will take a motion.
I will make a motion that we consider a joint resolution of the Mayor and Municipal Council of Murray City declaring October 11th and through the 15th, 2021 as Public Power Week.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All right. Brooke, would you call the roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Brooke. All right. Now,
So I'd like to invite our Power Department General Manager, Blaine Hackey, to come up and talk to us about what's going on to celebrate Public Power Week and to present this to you, Blaine.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it.
welcome,
Mayor and
Blaine.
Council.
Welcome. It's
Diane.
great to
Thank
see you.
Good to see you too. I know the Mayor and Council supports the Power Department. I really appreciate that, as well as the citizens. The Mayor mentioned we do have a week of festivities coming up next week. We are a month later than we are in other years because we wanted to use Pavilion 5 as our festivities, and it's completed or near completion, and so we will have our October 14th festivities there. We're going to do similar to what we have other years. We will invite the public to come and participate in a high demonstration voltage trailer. They can learn about electrical safety as well as the balloons, the popcorn. We're going to do away with, because of COVID, we're going to have box lunches this year, make it a little more safe for everybody. We did not have this last year because of COVID, and so we've missed a year. We'll see what 45-degree projected temperatures are going to do with this Thursday. We'll see how that goes. But if we can get some people out, a couple hundred people at least from our citizenry, we have some power bucks for them. Power bucks are credits towards their power bill. We have some other giveaways. We wanted to make it a virtual event this year as well. So on Monday and Tuesday of that week, which is 11th and 12th, we are going to have an online drawing, I guess you could say. We're going to give power bucks away, as well as Nest thermostats, some trees, those types of thing. On the night of, we're going to have a drawing for, how much was it? It was one $250 credit, five $50 credits, and 20 $25 credits towards power bills. Of course, you have to be a Murray citizen with power coming to their house to participate.
Oh, yeah.
And we hope to do that. So we're going to give away. We hope to have good attendance. We hope to just let the people know that we are a municipal power system. We're here to benefit the city. We are the best department in the city, right, Joey? Of course you are. So we invite the council, mayor, staff, citizens to come out and participate.
Great.
What time is that at again? Just so the public is aware.
Thursday from 4 till 6.
4 to 6.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
Thank
then
you.
the online drawings, you have to go online and like us on Facebook, and then we will put you in a drawing for random.
Great.
So our employees are excited to go out and meet people too. Thanks for the adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. That's always so fun to watch the sparks fly when they do that. What is that called? That
We call the high voltage demonstration
yes,
trailer.
a high
We
voltage.
share that trailer with other people in the region, other cities in the UAMPS organization. And it's pretty popular in other cities as well. We have to stand in line for that one. So
It's pretty cool.
it's it catches your attention.
Yes, it does. It's true.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Blaine.
Thanks, Blaine.
Okay. Our second special recognition is to consider a joint resolution of the Mayor and Municipal Council of Murray City, Utah, to designate and support the week of October 3 through 9, 2021 as Fire Prevention Week. And Mayor Camp and Joey Middleman will be presenting. Mayor?
Okay, thank you again. I'd like to point out that Public Power Week is next week. This week is the Fire Prevention Week. So this is a joint resolution of the Mayor and Municipal Council of Murray City to designate and support the week of October 3rd through 9th, 2021 as Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the Murray City is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those in the city, and acknowledge that fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas the fire departments in the United States respond to an average of 339,500 home fires per year, resulting in 2,770 deaths. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of death in a home fire by 60%. Murray residents should install smoke alarms in every bedroom, outside each separate sleeping area, on every level of the home, and ensure all batteries are functional. And whereas the Murray City Fire Department is dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and resulting injuries through prevention and education. And the 2021 Fire Prevention Week theme, Learn the Sounds of Safety, effectively serves to remind us of the importance of learning and responding to the sound of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. Therefore, we do hereby proclaim October 3rd through 9th, 2021 as Fire Prevention Week throughout Murray City and urge all residents to learn the sounds of fire safety and to support the public safety activities of the Murray City Fire Department during Fire Prevention Week 2021. That is the resolution.
Thank you. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution of the mayor and the municipal council of Murray City, Utah, designated to support the week of October 3rd through 9th, 2021 as Fire Prevention Week.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Brooke, will you call the roll, please?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Brooke.
Okay, now the power department may claim to be the favorite department, then we do love them. But you all know that the fire department, these are my peeps. So I'd like to invite Assistant Chief Joey Middleman to come up and talk to us about the activities of this week. Joe. And I'll present this to you as well.
Cool. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yep. And thank you, Council. I very much appreciate it. I will give clearly the power department is a more powerful department, though, than fire. I mean, it's in their name. They took it by claim, but, you know, we just light a fire underneath you. So hopefully not. Prevention. All right, enough of my poor jokes for this. You got me pretty good because I've been into second grade classes all day today and yesterday, going out and doing fire prevention. And that's what I wanted to briefly kind of recognize some of the events that we're doing is each year, last year, with the exception, we had to do it digitally, but we still reached out to every second grader and then the public with social media stuff. But we go out to every second grade class within Murray, both Murray School District and Granite School District. So we include the Cottonwood and Twin Peaks, and we love to get out there. And that's why I have these three fine fellows with Captain Jensen, paramedic Patch Adams, and Patch Adams. I say Patch Adams. I call him Patch so much. Paul Adams. But we can call him Patch Adams too. And then Engineer Carver with me is because they get out, and you never see us as kids like you do in the second grade classes, because these guys get down, they do push-ups with them, they do sit-ups, and we teach them four main principles that we go out. And that's what I really want to push now, especially with the media, is test your smoke alarms. We're going to be doing a social media push on this Friday for families to reach out and do a social media. We also want you to learn the sounds of safety with those fire alarms and learn their address, which is a huge thing for a second grader, is to know their address, where they're at, so we can be notified quickly. The other two things are really fun. It's because they never ever play with fire, because fire's a tool, not a toy, and that goes back to Chief Camp's day. We've been saying that phrase for a long time now, and it really resonates with the kid. And then anytime I go like this, they know to buckle up and wear their bicycle helmets. So we get a great safety message out. We also get to reach out to the Senior Rec Center on Friday at 9:30 this week, and so we're super excited about that. So between all of those events, whether you got a kid in second grade or you have a chance to come to the Senior Rec Center or watch social media, we really encourage you to be safe in your home. Watch out. Paul Adams has something for the council, and it's what we pass out to the second graders. So you guys in second grade for today.
We'll love
if
it.
you have a kid, great. If you have a grandkid, even greater, because the best kids are grandkids, I hear. So thank you very much. I appreciate your guys' time and council meeting tonight, and you guys listening to my poor sap of a voice and my bad jokes. So.
Joey, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My little one's going to love this.
Any other comments or? Oh, I already did.
No, just
I got
thank you.
covered, Joey. Thank you so much. Okay. Now we're at the citizen comments portion of our council meeting. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Step to the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and fill out the required form. I know we've got one.
Really? How'd you guess? My name is Lawrence Horman, and as far as my city of residence, it happens to be where I'm standing at the moment. Because of what I'm here about, the subject is homelessness and homeless issues. And I go to the county council meetings, and I try and attend here whenever I can remember when the meetings are, because they're less frequent. And my intent today is only to do what I have always done with each county and city council that I've ever gone to, and to encourage you to help deal with the homeless issues, not by making homelessness illegal through arrests and sweeps, but rather giving us a place to be, giving us a place to go if you want us to leave your streets and your parks, which is perfectly understandable. We don't want to be, as I said in an interview in KSL several years ago, we don't want to be in your backyard. We don't want to be in your public parks. We want a place of our own, and I'm not just talking about campgrounds. But I would like specifically to encourage Murray to be a forefront leader in this valley to help reduce or remove homophobia, to help those who are homeless get a place to be until they can get into a home. We don't have to build huge edifices. We don't need large buildings. Give us a safe campground that's legal, where we can feel that we can trust that if we call the police to get rid of the criminal element that everybody is so worried about in the homeless environment, that we won't get shoved off as well, that we won't get scraped into the garbage right along with the criminal element. What we need is a safe place to be so that we can get the criminal element out and focus on getting ourselves into a better environment and a better situation. Camps, authorized campgrounds are, I think, are a first step. They're not the final step, and I would never say such a thing. I don't believe they are. But the resource centers, and I stood up for county mayor when they were proposing those. That's when I started getting directly involved with homeless issues, aside from being there myself. Those resource centers, they're useful, they're helpful, but they're not the end solution either. They're not a final solution. And the downtown areas, South Salt Lake and Salt Lake, they are shouldering most of the burden, and I don't think it's fair to them. I'm not a resident there. I technically am not a resident anywhere. I'm not allowed to have residence because of the nature of where and how I live. And I, like anybody else who is homeless, will not be able to change that without help. We didn't get to where we are on our own. Not all of us are drug addicts or have mental health issues, or at least we didn't start out that way. But some of the things that happen when you are homeless bring you into those places and those positions. That's not to say that there are those who are homeless that didn't start out as either a drug addict or a criminal or with mental health issues that put them there. But that's not what keeps them there. Without help, we will go nowhere. And if it's the wrong kind of help, all you'll do is recycle us back in and shuffle us around, and you'll continue to have the same problem. So I would like to encourage the city of Murray to work with the citizens of Murray to become the first non-homophobic city in this valley, and the ones leading the charge to spread around the help so that everybody gets what they need, the cities and the homeless. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Well said. Thanks, you guys. See ya. Any other citizen comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll continue on. There is no consent agenda. So we'll go to public hearings. And we have one. It's to receive comments regarding the issuance of by the city of not to exceed $6,750,000 sales tax revenue bonds. Brenda.
So thanks for taking this time. This is one of the last steps in our bond issuance. And if you're wondering why we're having the public hearing, after you've already approved the parameters, ask the state legislature. Um, so we're here to hear public comment on the issuance of the bonds, which on September 7th, you approved us to issue and set the parameters. As you just said, the maximum amount would be $6,750,000. The maximum interest rate would be 5%, term 16 years. And then the source of the payment, the whole reason we are here is HB 244, which allocated $500,000 a year for 15 years to the city for streets and transportation projects. So instead of waiting and saving the money up, we are going to do this bond, use the $500,000 for the payments, and then that way, hopefully, we will be able to stay ahead of inflation. Inflation will eat the $500,000, and by the time 15 years rolls around, it won't be worth $500,000 anymore. So we're hoping to get a good start on a whole bunch of big overlay and various other projects on some of our main streets that could use it. So.
All right. Thank you, Brenda. Since this is a public hearing, I will open it now for public comment. Are there any comments? Brenda, did you receive anything? No? Jennifer? Nothing? Okay. Anything from the audience? Okay. I will now close the public hearing. And there is no council action on this one, so we'll go to business items. The first one is to consider a resolution of the Municipal Council of Murray City, Utah, authorizing a preliminary official statement and an official statement required in connection with the issuance and sale of not more than $6,750,000 aggregate principal amount of sales tax revenue bonds, Series 2021, and other documents required in connection therewith. Authorizing the taking of all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transactions contemplated by the resolution and related matters. My goodness, I'm say that 20 times. Brenda Moore presenting.
You'll be happy to know a lawyer wrote that, but it wasn't ours.
Oh, God.
So why we are here. Normally we don't approve the POS or the initial public offering, preliminary official statement. I always just call it the POS. Preliminary official statement. Normally we approve that at the same time you do the bond parameters. We were attempting, and we're still attempting, to get this bond done before interest rates rise, and just to have it completed so that we can time the market as best we can, which you never can do, but you can try. So we didn't have the time before you approved the parameters and set the public hearing date to go over this very thin statement, and I'm sure you guys read every word of it.
Every bit.
To go over it with a fine-tooth comb, make sure that the financials that are in there are correct, make sure that the language is okay. This is what is sent to investors for them to read about the city, for them to read about the bonds, and help them make their decision on whether they want to invest in Murray City, in Murray City's transportation or sales tax bonds. So if you read that, you did notice that there are some blank spots. Some of this is due to we haven't got our rating yet, and this is always approved with these blanks. They will get filled in as the underwriter is chosen, the exact structure of the bond is finalized, and we get our rating, which will be next week. We're hoping to maintain our AA, really hoping that they give us a AA plus, but we're just, won't know until they tell us. So That's why there's blanks in there, just in case you were wondering as you read it. Some of you probably did read. It's a good place to learn about the history of the city. A nice summary of the finances and how things are going, and I've got a good 3 paragraphs of what happened in COVID in there. So, so that's why we're here. And do you have any questions about the POS and what we are doing?
I have one. Is this a process that we usually do ourselves, or do other entities help us, or
this
the state?
This is written, and the first draft is always done by Gilmore Bell, which is our bond attorneys. GL goes through this with a very fine-tooth comb. I go through anything that mentions finances and words, and words about finances, and I write the some of those paragraphs, and I go through the rest. I don't understand it all because I'm not a lawyer. And then Matt also goes through it, and some of his other people in his office go through it, make sure all the T's are crossed and all that stuff. So it is like 5 or 6 people. We sit around for a couple hours one day, and everybody gives suggestions and makes corrections, and then we work through it that way.
Perfect. Next question I have is, what happens after it's approved?
So
what's the next step?
So the next step after this, next week we will be getting our bond rating, and then we have picked an underwriter, and we will have a call with them to make sure that they understand the city and understand what's in here, see if they have anything concerns about what's in the official preliminary statement. And then after that, we pick a day to go to market. We publish this, then it's not the preliminary, it's the official statement. They publish it, they send it out, hopefully get a lot of interest. That's the underwriter's job, is to get out there and sell it. And then they sell it, and I think we're planning on the 25th-ish of October for that. And then we will close. We're postponing the close a little bit so we don't have to pay interest for 30 days. So we'll postpone the close until November 30th, which is as long as we can go.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right, I will take a motion. Oh, wait, sorry.
Would you explain again the state's role and how we will pay this bond back for the public?
So the state determined that there are a lot of road transportation type projects out there that need additional funds, not just in Murray, but in, I can't remember, I think it was 10 or 11 other cities. And so they put in a law that says for the next 15 years, starting this July, they would give us $500,000 a year to go towards, and it's reserved for transportation projects. So that's the state's role. Every July, I don't think it's even subject, well, I guess if the state's completely out of money, we won't get it, but it's one of their priorities. And so every July, they will send us $500,000. And then we will use that $500,000 to make the payment on this. We did call these sales tax bonds because we're using our sales tax for collateral, because no one understands. You go out and talk to an investor about the state giving us they don't know what that means. So what they do know is sales tax. And we have sales tax coverage on our bonds. Even with this, at some points, it's, I think the lowest point is 7 times coverage. And sometimes it's going to be 14 or 15 times coverage. Yep. You're welcome.
Yep. That's a good deal. Okay. All right. If there are no other questions, I would appreciate a motion.
You do it? You want to? Okay. I love that. You do it. No, you do it. Okay, here we go. I'll motion that we approve a resolution of the Municipal Council of Murray City, Utah, authorizing a preliminary official statement and an official statement required in connection with the issuance and sale of not more than $6,750,000 aggregate principal amount of sales tax revenue bonds, Series 2021, and other documents required in connections therewith, authorizing the taking of all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transactions contemplated by the resolution and related matters.
Good job. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
All right. It has been made a motion and seconded. Is there discussion on the motion? All right. Discussion's done. Brooke, would you call the roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, motion passes. Let's continue on the second business item, and that is to consider an ordinance enacting Section 03.04.095 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to provisions allowing for government or nonprofit utility payment assistance. Brenda?
So thank you for considering this ordinance change. So as you know, I'm in charge of finance and administration. The administration part is utility billing and the recorder's office. It's part of utility billing. We have we have citizens who have a tough time paying their utility bills. And there are a lot of programs out there to help them with that. The most that we've heard of the most is the HEAT program. Then there's Red Cross will help. The Road Home helps people get established and helps them pay their utility bills. Part of why I'm here is because a lot of those programs would like us to waive the deposits that we have required for renters. And if the HEAT program is paying the utility bills for these people, it's okay that we don't get their deposit. That doesn't bother us. And it would just be new renters, someone who's moving in, trying to get established. So the fee structure and the deposit is in ordinance. And so what this ordinance here does is, one of the three things is that it allows us to waive deposits when some of these programs request it, so that we can get people into apartments and not have to let's try and help solve some of the homeless problem. Part of it is you got to be able to pay your utilities once you get there. And then the other two things that it does, it allows us to work with all or any of the nonprofits who come to us who want to help people with their utilities. Right now, HEAT is administering 2 other programs that have found money through ARPA. And so we're working on getting a water program in that will help, which will be mostly homeowners at this point, or renters in homes, pay for their water, which in turn will pay for all their other utilities. So it allows us to work with all of them. It also allows the mayor to approve and enter into any agreements with these entities that would allow them to give people, and then part of their contract is usually to waive deposits. So that's why we got that third thing in there. And some of these, if you looked at them really, really carefully, some of these agreements could be construed as being a interlocal agreement, which you have to approve, but they're not. They're just an agreement between 2 entities saying, we're going to help you pay utility bills for low-income people. So that's what this resolution or this ordinance is that to allow us to do those 3 things. You have any questions on that?
No questions. All right, good job.
Thank you.
I will take a motion.
I will make a motion that we consider an ordinance enacting Section 03.04.095 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to provisions allowing for government or nonprofit utility payment assistance.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Nope. Okay. Brooke, would you call the roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, passes. The motion passes. Let's go on now to the mayor's report and questions. Mayor?
Okay, thank you. Just want to mention a couple of things this evening, especially for the public. This coming Monday, October 11th, we will have our annual pumpkin race in Murray Park on the hill on Murray Park Lane, just west of the rec center. We'll begin at 5:30 p.m. That's always a fun event. I know Jennifer's there with her kids every year. Anyway, it's a fun event. That's Monday at 5:30. Also on October 11th in Murray Park in the large parking lot near the parks office, we will have our leaf drop off. We'll have the dumpsters there for the leaf drop off, and that'll go through. Kim, will that
We normally go through
or Danny?
October, depending on the weather and when it's drop.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of parks, I don't know how many of you have heard of the TikTok challenge. You may have heard it from kids or grandkids or seen in news reports about it. They encourage young people to do vandalism in schools and parks and so on, and video it and post it online. We have had quite an increase in vandalism lately in our parks, and we're quite concerned about that. And we're increasing patrols in the parks and trying to get a handle on that. We want to make you aware of that. It's mainly in restrooms. They go in and take the soap dispensers, and I even understand that in some cases in the schools they've taken the stalls, the restroom stall doors, and hauled them out. I mean, it's quite a problem. We've also had the library impacted too, so we're just want to make you aware of that and let you know that we're looking at measures to try and minimize that. Kim Fong indicated that they are actually considering locking their restroom so that if someone needs to use it, they'll have to go get the key. It'll be maybe tied to a dictionary or something, with a chain. But anyway, that's a problem. So we want to make you aware of that. We will have some information on public works projects in the council communication at the end of the week. But I did want to mention that the Vine Street project from 9th East or from 13th East to Van Winkle next week the Salt Lake City Water Department will be starting to replace water line in Vine Street there, and that's going to impact the residents quite a bit. So you may expect to hear from residents up there during that time. They'll be starting that next week. And then finally, October's the month that we recalculate and update the equal pay for the utility bills. That always brings out some inquiries. You may get some phone calls or emails about rates going up. And we try and educate the public as much as we can, the customers when they call, what causes the changes in the equal pay amount. So we can expect to start seeing those over the next weeks. And that's all I had to report tonight. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the mayor? Comments? Okay. Thank you, Mayor. We will be adjourned.